Hey!
What? Oh, thanks. Guitar Gear Freaks, what's up? It's Pete Thorn. Welcome to my studio. From the mind of Mr. Jack White and the folks at Coppersound Pedals, it's the Triplegraph. Completely unique and completely badass in its sonics and its design. Unbelievable pedal. About 4 years in the making. It's got a really interesting story behind it. And one thing I love about Jack White, I just got to say right out of the gate, well, it's two things actually. Number one, he's always unique. And number two, he never half-asses anything. Everything's always done to the hilt. And this thing totally applies. So as the story goes, the guys at Coppersound were making a kind of a momentary kill switch pedal where you could push down on it and it would just shut off the sound. So you could do like stutter effects with it. And they sent one of these to Jack White. And the on-off key for it was looks something like this, like an old school telegraph style key. And evidently he really dug it and he had all kinds of ideas about what he could do with a switch like this in a pedal of his own. 4 years later, this is the result. So what does it do? Well, it's a dual octave pedal, first of all, so you can switch in a low octave or a high octave. You can play chords with it and stuff, and it'll actually track quite decently. So octave up, octave down, but there's also some other functions. This middle switch right here will kill the dry sound, much like the momentary switch on the original Coppersound pedal. So if you don't have anything on and you hit the kill switch, it kills the dry sound, the sound just goes away altogether. But if you've got one or both of the octaves switched in and you hit that kill switch, it's going to kill your dry guitar sound and you'll just end up with the octave. So on the song at the beginning of the video, you heard me do that for both a lower octave as well as an upper octave. I was able to get kind of like fake bass sounds, and I was also able to get an extremely high-pitched, octave shifted up guitar sound. And I even used it on the Strat for the little lead part with the octave up and octave down switched in, and I took out my dry guitar sound. You end up with something that sounds almost like an organ or something when you do that. It's got a unique quality to it that's almost hard to explain. It's easier to just hear. Now, the other really cool thing that the pedal can do with this center switch, you can put it into a totally different mode where this becomes an effects loop that's momentary. So you got an effects loop here, you can hook up a pedal there, hit this center switch and it turns the pedal on only as you're holding down that momentary switch. So you saw me do that in the track at the beginning of the video with a Keeley dynamic tremolo. I held the switch down, you heard the trem go really fast and then slow down because it's dynamic. That was a really really cool use. I've got the octaves in, and then I can hit a chord and get a fast, really stuttery tremolo with the trem pedal hooked up in there. Now I also did a stereo pair of baritone guitars, and I hooked up my Westco grease juicer pedal, which is a Bootsy Collins style fuzz and envelope follower in one box. That was awesome, I think. Totally unique sound, I think. Now for the lead guitar part, I played on my Strat in that track at the beginning of the video. The first lick that comes in, I mentioned, I took out the dry frequency by holding down the switch, and you just heard the octaves, the upper and lower octave. Then I switched the switch to the other position. I had a fuzz pedal hooked up in the effect loop. It was my BAE Hot Fuzz. And then when I held down the switch for that next bends lick, you hear the fuzz kick in, and kind of makes the octaves go to the background. You don't really hear them that well with this crazy fuzz that I had on. And then when I let the switch go, you hear the octaves come back in. It tracks really well. It's quite fast, the tracking, and you can also even play chords, and it seems to work pretty well with simple chords. The only thing that I really didn't do in the video is switch these two octave switches into momentary mode. I used them in latching mode for all the parts that I played. But what you can do is put them into a momentary mode, and then if you just want to switch in the octave for a brief riff, you know, either a higher or lower octave, you can do that, and the switches become momentary, just like the center one. Now, one thing you might ask yourself is, how sturdy are those switches? They're kind of proprietary, obviously, probably tough to replace. There is so much in this book, there I opened up to a page that's about it, about the fabrication of these switches and all the R&D that they had to go through to come up with something that was roadworthy and met Jack's specifications and his expectations. They would send him pedals, and he would kick them around at rehearsal and stuff and find problems, and they would fix them and work on it and send them back. And that's why the 4 years of development. I mean, there's been a lot of thought and engineering into the fabrication and into the design. Just the fact that they made this incredible little book about it actually is really cool. I mean, I actually read the entire thing when I pulled the pedal out of the box. Anyway, I'm a sucker for nice design. I appreciate, R&D and time and effort and, the thought that goes into building something, and I think these guys did an amazing job on this. 4 years in the making! It's the Triplegraph. So congrats to Jack White and the folks at Coppersound. You did a really nice job on this. I am a fan. It's a fun, super unique pedal that I know I'm going to find uses for around here. I had a great time coming up with that track at the beginning of the video, and yeah, it's going to find its way onto my tracks for sure. You can check it out further at that website you see down there in the link in the video description below. Click there, it'll take you to all the info that I didn't tell you that you could ever possibly want to know about the Triplegraph. Please hit subscribe if you haven't, and come back and see me for more videos real soon. I'm Pete Thorn. Take care. Over and out.